Hi teachers. Have you ever gotten to a writing workshop and felt like, I'm not a good writing teacher. What am I doing? Or perhaps you feel that writing is more of a talent than a skill. Well, then I want you to keep watching, because we're going to talk about how we need to have a growth mindset when we approach writing workshop. Welcome to A Cup Full of Hope. I'm Hope, and I'm here to help teachers like you find inspiration for your classroom by showing you ways to engage your learners whatever they are at that level. If you're passionate about teaching and learning, please subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell so that you don't miss any opportunities to find inspiration in your classroom. Teachers, we have a big job as we are charged with the responsibility of creating writers who can produce analytical writing, who can reflect on their learning and their collaboration. I often have heard teachers say that they struggle with writing and showing their students how to write because they don't believe that they are a writer within themselves. What we need to do as a teacher is to examine our mindsets before we can be successful in teaching our children to believe everyone's a writer. You may be familiar with the work of Carol Dweck. She wrote the book called Mindset, which explores this theory of growth mindset versus fixed mindset. So before that we can really become effective in our teaching practices, I want us to dig into having that growth mindset as a teacher. And this can be for writing, it could be for reading, for math, any content really. But I feel it is important that we dig into what growth mindset is before I can actually give you some inspiration on encouraging your classroom full of writers that they too are writers. I'm going to link the book Mindset by Carol Dweck and another great book. It's The Growth Mindset Coach. The authors are Annie Brock and Heather Hundley, and they base all of their coaching practices for teachers to use growth mindset in their classroom, all on the work of Carol Dweck. And I'll link this book below too, because these are great resources that will really challenge not only your writing instruction, but it's going to challenge how you see teaching, how you see learning for our students. I think it was interesting that Carol Dweck, in her research, found that children who have this fixed mindset, that they believe they can only achieve so much. I'll never be a good reader. I'll never be a good writer. That if they believe that and adopt that mindset through the elementary years, their intelligence and abilities will be fixed all the way through middle school and high school. The time to really impart growth mindset thinking will be in our early years of elementary school. I'm not saying that we shouldn't adopt that growth mindset in middle school and high school. We need to continue to do that. But those formative years, teachers, if you're an elementary school teacher, we have a big job of convincing our young people that they can achieve anything, no matter their ability, if they put in effort and turn their work into accomplishment. What I want to know from you is, what have you said about writing instruction? Or what have you heard your students say and you thought, what am I supposed to do with that? I teach some professional developments for balanced literacy for teachers. One of the reasons I want to bring this information to you is because I have heard time and time again that teachers think that students can only do so much, or they say, I'm not a writer, or my students are either going to be able to do very well because they have a talent, or they're not a writer. Friends, that is a fixed mindset. We all are writers. We all need to be challenged to continue our journey along writing workshop. So what should we say? What are the types of things we need to say instead of saying, I don't like writing, or, well, I was never good at writing? Not everyone's a writer. You have to have talent to be a writer. I would say this. What's the last thing you have written? Is it a list? Is it a note? Is it a text? Is it a referral? What have you written? It is so important that we understand that yes, we are writers, and yes, it is important for us to have confidence in our communication skills, and we need to transfer that to our students. We'll never transfer the confidence of being a writer to our students if you are not confident as a writer yourself. So let's change that thinking, a fixed mindset that I'm just not a good writing teacher, to I'm going to find ways to engage my writers wherever they are. We want to set goals and meet those goals incrementally. There is a writer who won the Pulitzer, and I do not have the name. I can't remember the name, but in my reading and studying, I learned that it was said, there are no good and bad writers, just good and bad writing. I'm sure along the way you have experienced some pride in your writing. Was it an email? There are many times that I've written an email and I thought, I feel like I can confidently say that this will be a clear email to Johnny's parents. Or maybe it's just a piece of creative writing where you sat out and you just wrote some ideas down and reflected on your teaching or reflected on your family life. Writing is important. And yes, you are a writer and our students are all writers. So say it with me. Everyone's a writer. Yes, we are. So I hear some of you saying, okay, Hope, you've convinced me. I'm a writer. My kids are writers. Now what? I'm glad that you asked. It is so important that as you begin your year, right now it is July, and many of us are preparing ourselves for our first weeks of school, thinking, what am I going to teach? Those first couple of weeks of school really are about procedures and routine, establishing community, establishing the culture of a growth mindset. Now, since I'm specifically talking about the writing workshop, I want us to think about how do I establish the culture of growth mindset in my writing workshop. You know that everyone's a writer. Now we must convince our students. Yes, George, you are a writer. Can't write your name yet, but you are a writer. How are you going to do that? So on the first day of school, I want you to get it in your mind to say this over and over every day for the first week, 2, 3 weeks, and beyond. However many times you need to say it, this is what I want you to say. You can write anything, anywhere, anytime. What I plan to do is take this little text message and put it up in my room in my writing center so my students will always remember you are a writer. You can write anything, anywhere, anytime. And it's so liberating for them to know that, and I've done this for many years in my classroom, and they are excited about writing. They will take a little notebook that I've prepared for them, and often I've used notebooks basically that I've put together with copy paper or notebook paper, stapled it together with some construction paper to give them their first writing journal. Now, yes, I do use composition notebooks, but at the beginning of the year, to begin to build that sense of accomplishment and to build that mindset. I'm a writer and I've got this. I can do this. I like to start with a small notebook. Now, I have some teacher friends in YouTube world that have been buying these little booklets at the Target dollar spot. This is what we can use them for. They're small booklets that are perfect for students to begin their writing journey. The reason that I like to start with these small, short writing booklets is it gives my students a sense of accomplishment and a sense of pride, and it builds their confidence in themselves as a writer. I've done this for several years now, up through all the way to 3rd grade, and it would probably work in older grades as well. But I've given them a small booklet to start their journey. And when we're finished with building our confidence and building our writing community and building routines and procedures within our writing workshop, we graduate and we celebrate by moving up to the real writing notebook. So this is just something that I've done to engage my students and to build that community of writers and to convince them, I've got this. I can write, and I'm a writer. What I want to do is leave you with some strategies to meet this first goal in establishing a growth mindset in writing workshop. We have to establish the culture that everyone's a writer. So first of all, I'm going to recommend some videos and some books that you can use in your writing workshop to promote that growth mindset. One book that I love to use when I'm kicking off writing workshop is the book called Author, A True Story by Helen Lester. This book, for many years, I've used it in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade to be specific. If you don't know who Helen Lester is, I want you to look up Tacky the Penguin. Are you familiar with Tacky the Penguin? She has written a series of books about a penguin who kind of marches to the beat of his own drum. It's funny. They're short books. They're really intended for 1st and 2nd graders. Perhaps your students will remember back to when they've heard about Tacky, or maybe you can share one of Tacky's books just as a fun read. But I always read Author, A True Story by Helen Lester. Helen, the author of Tacky the Penguin series, wrote a little autobiography picture book about herself. She actually started off as a child who struggled with reading and struggled with writing, and she had to work hard to go to college and become a teacher and then eventually a writer. And she's a very successful writer. I always love to begin that so students can understand it's okay if you don't feel confident. But let's keep trying and let's grow as a writer, because you never know what could happen. Another book that I use, again, I've used it in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade, is the book called Amelia's Notebook. I do recommend this for your upper grades, 4th and 5th grade. I think that you would love this book. It's a series of books where Amelia is given a notebook and she journals about her journey through 4th, 5th grade and beyond. And what I like about this book is it gives students the idea that you can write anything, anytime, anywhere. It hits that message that I'm wanting to send to my students. Now, another thing that you can do is use video with your students. There are some great videos that promote growth mindset. Go to YouTube, search it, and you're going to find lots and lots of videos that will promote growth mindset. I love the videos produced by Class Dojo, that they're all on YouTube, that has to do with growth mindset. Those are ideal for, I would say, kindergarten, maybe to 3rd grade. If you feel your students are too old for Class Dojo, I also want you to look up Amelia's notebook on YouTube, because there are some videos that go along with the text, and I have used those in my classroom to establish what I want my kiddos to do with their first practice writing notebook at the beginning of the year. Remember, our goal is to build confidence, to build motivation and engagement to write. So these are some great ways that you can do it. I'm going to link the books plus some other recommendations and the videos that I've used in the description box below. If you know of some books or some other videos, please comment below. Let's start a collaboration of resources that we can use in writing workshop when building a growth mindset. Some other things that you can do when you are establishing routines and procedures in the beginnings of writing workshop is to give students a self-reflection assessment, or do some growth mindset versus fixed mindset sorts, so your students understand the difference. You can grab these off of Teachers Pay Teachers. There are many TPT authors that have created assessments for growth mindset. They have created posters, they have created sorts to teach children the difference between fixed and growth mindset. Do those activities. Always go back to the notebook. I do want to make a point about the notebook. I not only use this during writing workshop, but my students can get out their writing notebook. Remember, anytime, anywhere to write anything. When we're in class, my only expectation is that it is about what we are doing within that particular lesson. One other recommendation that I have is to put some brain dumps into your writing notebook. Get your students to start thinking, what am I good at? What challenges do I face? How have I overcome some challenges? How do I feel about writing? Remember, this is all about moving ourselves to engagement, motivation, and confidence so that we can graduate to become writers and move into the meat of teaching how to be a good writer. How to write a persuasive, argumentative essay, how to write a narrative, how to write an informative or an explanatory essay, and yes, how to write the infamous text-dependent analysis response. We have a big job to do, but before we can do that job, we have to convince our students, you're a writer, and then convince them, you know what, I want to write. Thanks for watching this video. Please give me a like if you've gleaned anything from this particular video. You're going to want to subscribe to my channel if you're interested in some other content about writing workshop. So subscribe, click the notification bell so that you know when another cupful of hope comes your way. Bye guys.